Hi, nice to meet you guys.
Nice of you to be here with us, Tommy.
Thank you for joining us today.
It's absolutely
Tell us
fine.
a bit about how you discovered the game and what's kept you in it.
I kind of discovered it by accident. I've been very active in sports and athletics for quite a long time. I did jiu-jitsu for years. I still do jiu-jitsu. I grew my hair in lockdown, which sounds really peculiar, but well, I didn't grow it, but the barb was all shut, so my hair started growing long, and people started coming up to me saying, "You should be a wrestler, you look like a wrestler." Apparently wrestlers have a lot of long hair. So I thought about it for a while, I didn't think much to it. I've always gone to the gym, I've always been active and big and strong. And then I kind of mulled on it and decided, you know what, I'm going to see if I can look into this and how do people become wrestlers. And I didn't know much about the wrestling business, I didn't know where there were wrestling shows on or anything. I found a local training school and it just went from there really.
Oh, that's great. How long have you been in the game now, Tommy?
A couple of years now, 2 years, yeah.
And obviously making a few waves. You've certainly got the build to do that.
Yeah, apparently so. I think my luck, I'm able to sell tickets, I guess. But of course you've got to back it up with what you do in the ring as well.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, from the guys are getting bigger from my days as a referee in the ring. And I wouldn't like you falling on top of me.
Well, actually, I'm one of the bigger guys. There's not many guys really over 6 foot and over 16 stone on the kind of UK independent scene. Most of the guys are middleweights really. There's not many real true heavyweights about.
Yeah, but it's it's good to see the 1 or 2 heavier guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's
some more.
Yeah, I mean, I love being a heavyweight. It's who I am, it's what I am. And it means I get to work with other big heavyweights, which is great. It's really nice to be able to work with the big, really well-established guys. I'm very lucky that there's not many of us really, because it means I get to work with the better workers.
And tell us a bit about how you found your training under Marty.
Oh, Marty's the best. I sometimes lament that he's not physically at his best anymore, because I'd love to get in the ring with him and roll around with him, and for him to really show me how to do the job, but unfortunately that's not really possible for Marty. Although sometimes he does ask me to get on the floor in front of him. He shows me 1 or 2 things, and he's still got a bit. But yeah, I love training with Marty. He's great. He puts us through our paces. We work really hard. I'm a fit guy. I keep fit anyway. And yeah, Marty, he gets us. We start out here. We do all the cardio. Do a lot of stretching. He wants us all to be very mobile, flexible, accessible, and then we get into the ring over there and. He puts us through our paces again. Yeah, I'm always drenched after a session. It's very hard work, but I love it. Yeah.
So, what's your aspirations within the game?
Well, I'm getting on a bit, so I've not got long left, probably a year or 2. I had aspired when I got into wrestling. I'd aspired to get work every week for a start, which I've done, and I had an aspiration to work abroad, which has already come to pass. So at this point, everything's a bonus. Really, I'm very lucky to have kind of already gone beyond what targets I set myself, but at a push, I'd like to get to Japan.
Do you just wrestle north or south or around the country?
So yeah, mostly up north, but I worked in Devon for a little bit last year for James Mason. I get up to Scotland quite a bit, Cumbria, Newcastle. I work in Wales pretty much every month, and then yeah, just like I say, mostly the north of England. And then these jobs abroad. I've got Ireland next week. I'm going to Malta in May. So yeah, I get around. Marty keeps me busy.
Sounds like some brilliant places and achievements under your belt. What advice would you give to someone entering the wrestling that you've learnt in the ring from your time with Marty that can apply to outside life?
Yeah. Ears open, mouth shut. It's definitely a good one. I think just always be humble and willing to learn, and try to surround yourself with the best people possible. Try and be around experts. if you've got to stick your hand in your pocket, you've got to stick your hand in your pocket, but you want to be around the highest caliber of people. I find that that's the best way you grow, is to, you know, it's scary getting into the ring with, when I first started, I was kind of working with puddings really, like myself, you know, just people who were just starting out, and I was always terrified of working with more established wrestlers, with better wrestlers, because it's a scary thing to do, but actually I found that those have been my best matches, have been when I've been working with the top guys. You know, I've worked with Tyson T-Bone for Marty. Who else have I wrestled with?
Do you find they draw your character out more? And
well, everything.
Encourage you to go.
Oh yeah, and you know, not just that. You work that bit harder. You find that little bit of extra strength. Everything. You just get better when you're around better and you're in with better. You become better. So yeah, that would be my advice, I guess.
That's great. And here's one of the biggest legends that's ever graced the ring in the UK, and yeah, I'll go as far as say the world. Is a gentleman I've had the pleasure of sharing a ring with, me as a referee, him as a wrestler. And that is the main man himself, the one and only Marty Jones.
Marty, thank you for joining us today. Can you talk to us a bit about your transition from being in the ring yourself to now inspiring the next generation of wrestlers? What's that been like for you?
Well, being a professional wrestler over the years, how can I say, it's been my life. I started wrestling when I was 6 years old, doing what they call as amateur wrestling, like the Olympic wrestling, catch as catch can. And I was taught by one of the greatest British wrestlers, Billy Robinson, in Fales, which is just a few miles down the road from here. And I did quite well at the amateur game. I actually thought professional wrestling was what it is, or what it was. I just didn't believe it, because I was training 7 nights a week as an amateur wrestler, and Billy Robinson never ever talked about professional wrestling. It was a bad word, even though he was a good amateur wrestler, shoot wrestler as we call it, and it was a bad word, professional wrestling. So, travelling up and down the country for little medals and things like that, I decided I'd find out for myself, because I thought, nah, these guys don't train, these guys don't do this, because you got small, tubby guys, big, thin guys and all this, and there's only a handful of wrestlers that looked the part, and I thought, I'm going to give it a go. And I gave it a go, and I went down to Wrighton Stadium along with some really, really good wrestlers, namely Colin Joynson, Vic Faulkner, and there was people like Jackie Robinson, Billy Robinson's cousin, and it was like a Sunday morning training again, but professional. Billy Robinson had spoke about, and Abe Ginsberg, for argument's sake, big hard men, you know, and at Bolton I was introduced to the crowd, and he had my England badge on, and I got a good applause, and the MC was called Martin Conroy. That same night, I was actually, with my father, stood at the side, and Burt Royal and Vic Faulkner were two local guys from Bolton, where the event was being held. And they was on with a team called the Black Diamonds. And the Black Diamonds won their first semi-final match by cheating, putting the feet on the ropes. But the crowd didn't bother, because they thought, oh, you're in the final with the two local guys, Royal and Vic Faulkner. Nobody beats that, especially at Bolton. Well, this is how I came into professional wrestling. After about 15-20 minutes, Abe Ginsberg put a fist, without the referee seeing it, on Burt Royal's nose, scooped his legs up, and got the count 1, 2, 3. So the local favourites had got beat for the first time ever. And the next thing is, one of the crowd jumps up and pulls Eric Cutler's legs off the apron. He lands down on the floor in between cinema seating, so he's got his head in between his legs, and there's this big burly guy smacking him, and his teeth come through his head, and I'm thinking, what's all this about? But I joined in, which was just a natural thing to protect our own. Anyway, I won't go into detail, but that was my first ever watching a professional wrestling match. And I'm thinking to myself, the crowd do really get wound up and this, that and the other. And I quite like that, because I want to be a favourite, I didn't want to be a bad guy. And then the next time I went to Connors Quay with Jackie Robinson, and one of the wrestlers didn't turn up. And you always took your gear with you. So, you're on tonight, and that's how I started.
Wow.
And I started wrestling when I was 6-year-old. I turned professional at 17. I was 70 last month. So I've been in the business 64 years. And as you can see, or as you know, I have a wrestling gym here where I'm trying to teach the next generation. But all I can say is fond memories is what I've got. And it was, you know, with having a reputable coach at that time, Billy Robinson, you go to Germany for the tournaments and things, and there was a guy there called Mil Mascaras, who was a big, big name, Mexican wrestler. Phenomenal shape, but he was a legend in Mexico. I'd only been in the business 6 months, and he recommended me to go to Mexico. So I went. That's another tale. How we got there. Not student fare, basically, but things along the way up. If we got time to tell you, you know.
Of course.
No, it would take too long. But I eventually got there, and I'd never witnessed it. There's a lot of poverty there, but the crowds it was drawing, and I had a good chemistry because I relied on my amateur background to beat these guys. And then it was a different style of wrestling, which was good for me for when I came back to this country. It's like any job, you pick it up a little bit, and if you like it, you use it. And I should have been there for 3 weeks, and I stayed there 3 months.
Amazing.
And I'm proud to say, and I don't think anybody's beaten it yet, I had this chemistry with this guy called Pedro Aguayo, the Mad Dog, and he had long hair. And in Mexico, if you got beat, the mask came off, because it was all luchadors, you know, superheroes for all the kids basically. And if you didn't have a mask on, you'd have long hair, and you'd do a hair match where they cut your hair off, which was the first type of the show. But I got it. But I had this chemistry with this guy, and he'd never been beaten, and he had long hair, and I beat him. But it was not a hair match, as you say. So the next match we had, he was actually booked in Japan. So they showed him going on the airport as though he's getting away from me. And it really took. And I'm pleased to say, when we did the match, I took paper clippings. I was top of the bill, with a good bill round us, and we drew 33,000. And then from then, it snowballed. That I went to other countries, and I've been doing it ever since. I did 6 tours of Japan, and you know, when you interview people, if you don't, you just say to them, have you ever been to Japan? And if they say no, well, they're not all that good. One of the regrets in professional wrestling is when I was in Japan, they invited, in them days, a WWF, and that was run by Vince McMahon's father, and Bob Backlund was there, and all these gimmick wrestlers, which in Japan they didn't have, you know, it was proper, more like the Olympics, if you know what I mean. And he asked me would I like to go to America. Nah, not for me. But it was a big mistake, I should have gone. I usually get asked, how did I get into professional wrestling? And as you can see, I wear glasses. And I'm blind in one eye. And I used to get picked on at school. So my dad took me down to Billy Robinson's gym, but he had a bit of a temper as well. So what happened then was my dad took me to Billy Robinson's gym to control my temper. And that's how it all started for me. And as you can see the squared circle there, I'm trying to teach people now to do what I did, carry the legacy on. And it's surprising. I know you turn the TV on, no matter what it is, in football or any sport or any health, we're on about health and safety, not health, health issues and this, that, and well, I can tell you, I get people of all walks of life and colour that come into this gym, and they're all, you can know within 5 minutes how they get into the ring, what the temperament's like, and we have a lot of autistic people come here. They won't even speak to anybody when they come. You can't shut them up now. And I do a few shows up and down the country, mainly around the northwest area. And the first ones that go on the bill are my trainees. And I love it, and that's it. I've had a great career, and I just want to keep passing it on to other people. I think the modern day of wrestling is going way off the mark. I see bits of kids that the bodies are no bigger than that top rope,
Yeah.
because they think it's a joke. And I've got one big regret, is that I'm not able to actually get in the ring anymore.
With them, yeah.
I've had 3 new knees there, that you see the size of my knee.
Yeah.
I've got 16 screws there. But I would love to be in the business today, just to show these people what people like Fit Finlay, Mark Rollerball Rocco, Colin Joynson, Pete Robert, Len Ironside, Johnny Saint, all these people. The Americans came over to Manchester, and Victoria Station there, the big dome, we had a big wrestling event there, sold out because the Americans were coming. Nobody gave a monkeys about the British guys. With half an hour to go, they weren't allowed to wrestle, because there's a thing about tax and you've got to declare this and declare that.
Yeah.
Now, in one corner was Tony St Clair, another great wrestler. I think it was Drew McDonald and myself against Hulk Hogan, Tony Gurria and another American. But without us British lads, the event wouldn't have gone on. But I can say wrestling, I see people now that are solicitors that used to be my class. I see people that do very, very well. They've never moved out of this town. I was a kid with no education and I've been all around the world.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what I am looking for, if you know anybody, or anybody who's listening to this, I need somebody who could do a good autobiography. Because I know for a fact, true stories, if I could get it on paper, what I thought about him and what I thought about her, or I thought about it, and my experiences from being abroad, it'd be a bestseller. Because I'll tell the truth. I won't glamour it up just for me.
So, Marty, I believe that Abby's got another question she'd like to ask you before we...
It's an honour to be hearing about all your stories and how you got involved with wrestling. And having been the mid-heavyweight champion and holding that title, you must have so many stories under your belt. What's been your highlight of your career?
Well, every time I defended or had a championship match, it was special to me. Now then, wrestling's special to me. It's like anything else, but the matches that stand out for me, or the things, all the trips, as I pointed out before, I had the opportunity to wrestle around the world. Muhammad Ali fought Antonio Inoki. I was on that program. Alright, it was like 12 matches. 12 matches, I'm probably second on. But to shake your hand on Muhammad Ali,
Priceless.
and it's all the memories in the game. But I can honestly say, I'll ask anybody out there, modern, old, any country in the world, I can honestly say, and I am being big-headed when I say this, I never had a bad match.
15, 16, and I said, I'll try the wrestling. And I was working as an apprentice toolmaker, and when I was 21, I was on £1,000 a year, £20 a week. And they said to me in the tool room, Colin, you're either going to be a wrestler or you're going to go be a toolmaker. I said, I'm going wrestling. I'm going full time as a pro wrestler. And I was about 13 stone then. And I turned pro wrestler. And from then, it's similar to like what Marty told you, you learn as you go along. I learned off the other wrestlers. I used to watch what they did and how they moved and different things. And I got my own style. But my style was, I could wrestle. I could get the crowd at it. And I could do whatever. And then, as Marty was telling you about going abroad, I was with the first to go to Japan with Billy Robinson, Tony Charles,
Great wrestler.
Johnny Eagles,
Brilliant.
and I went to Japan, and we went for 6 weeks, and we was on in 1968, £200 a week. That was a lot of money. That was more than Georgie Best was getting, the footballer. And we did 6 weeks, and then the Japanese said, we want one of the wrestlers to stay for another 6 weeks to educate the next group of English people. And they said, we want Colin Joynson. And I was there for 3 months in 1968. I did 3 months in Japan. Well, I came home, I was rich.
Millionaire almost.
You know what I mean? And then I went to Germany. I got into Germany for Edmund Schober. And he used to do the tournaments. I started in 1960. And I finished in 1998. And as Marty said, his first job on television was with me. And the last job my last job on TV was with Marty. Because I had a pub then in Bolton. And I'd virtually retired. And he came in the pub, and as wrestlers, I would start talking shop. I said, did you see that bout at weekends? Such a body, such a body. If I couldn't lick him, you know. Marty phoned me up and he said, what are you doing on January the 15th? I said, I'm in the pub. Why, Marty? He said, you're at Burnley on TV with me, World Championship. I said, well, I've not wrestled for 2 years. He said, I don't care. I said, you're coming, doing it. And I wrestled Marty on television, and I've got it on videotape. And I had a cracking match. But I was sat in the dressing room afterwards, and when I finished, and Marty came in to shake my hand, he said, are you going to do any more? I said, I've finished. And that was the end.
Yeah.
You know, I'd done enough. I'd done like, I'd wrestled in South Africa. I wrestled all over Germany, Europe. I used to go to France. And it was a living. When I came in the wrestling business, I was educated by Jim Hussey.
Jumping Jim.
Who was Mark Rollerball Loco. I trained Rollerball Loco. I brought him in the business.
You brought Mark.
I brought Mark Loco into the business because he was a show jumper.
Yeah, I knew you.
Mark was a show jumper. And I used to go to Jim's farm at Prestwich and we used to train Tally OK. You remember?
Yeah, Peter. Yeah.
Peter Kay. And we was training Tally OK. Mark was 16. And he used to be riding past someone of his horses and he was show jumping. He had a show jumping ring there. And I said to him one day, I was there and Peter Kay didn't come. And Jim was somewhere and I said to Mark, come on, get in the ring.
Give it a go.
No, he said, oh, crap. I said, get in the ring. So I got him in the ring and I dragged him round and sorted him out. And then from then on, he started learning bits. And how he came in the business, we went to a show at Wolverhampton. Me and his dad. And Mark came for the ride. And my opponent didn't come. So they said, well, what are we going to do? I said, put a pair of boots on Mark. And he said, you what? I said, I'll take him in the ring, I'll wrestle him. So I took Mark in the ring, and his first job with me. And the other thing with Mark, he got into Japan, and he got there through me.
So having made a name for yourself in the game and then being able to bring someone else in, how does it feel to be able to have that experience?
Well, the thing is, as long as they were good, then I was happy. But if they did something that didn't suit, I'd soon tell them. And but like in the wrestling business, there was always somebody got something different, and that was the glory of the wrestling business.
Yeah.
People came, not like it is now. You've been around when McManus was around, and Mike Marino, and Tony Charles.
Yep.
And wonderful wrestlers, you know.
Yeah, and yeah, some of the absolute. Well, Joe, look at people like George Kidd.
George Kidd, and like Marty. Marty was a natural.
Yeah. Oh.
He was a natural because he'd done all his years as amateur catcher, catch can. I did 10 months amateur catch can. And from then on, I went learning pro shoot wrestling, submission wrestling, and then eventually, apart from being a wrestler, you had to be an acrobat, really.
Well, that was what I was saying before, the way you used to move around the ring, yeah? You were also exceedingly acrobatic.
Well, yeah,
your submission holds was something else.
On Facebook, there's like a photograph of me drop kicking Mick McManus, and I'm up there, and I've hit him, and he's gone back, and I've got the picture of it.
I'd like to see that.
And it's a cracking photograph.
I'd like to see that. Well, now we are coming to yet another one of the really main men. None less than 10 times World Lightweight Champion, the one and only Mr. Johnny Saint. Welcome, John.
Well, thank you very much
It's an
indeed.
absolute pleasure.
It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's an honour to have you with us.
Thank you.
Please.
Listen, flattery gets you everywhere with me. Be very careful what you say.
You're still as smooth as you were in the ring.
Oh, but total smoothie, don't worry.
10 times is fantastic. I'd
Yes.
love to hear about your journey with that. I can imagine it takes real resilience and mental strength to keep pushing
Yes,
in the face
it does, it does. And when I lost the title, I realised I'd lost it, and I realised, what did I do wrong? What was wrong? And I used to watch the matches, especially if it was on television. I used to watch the matches over and over again and try and pick up what I'd done wrong, or what I could do to improve, which made me train harder and harder. Yes.
So there's real strength in picking yourself up,
Oh yes.
learning.
Oh yes. You've got to do it in life, haven't you?
Absolutely.
You know, you get put down, so you've got to pick yourself up and go, right, come on, let's have a go.
And what kept you in the ring?
What kept me? Money.
I think that's what kept everybody there.
That was the way I earned my living. You know. But I was always happier doing physical things.
Yeah.
I was never a good footballer, anything like that, you know. But it could put me on the mat and things like that, yes. And I was
Brilliant
happy.
wrestler,
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant wrestler.
Yeah.
One of the best ever to come out of this country.
What was the first time you got in the ring? What drew you to the game?
Well, I'm afraid I've not got the best of memories any longer. The first time I think I wrestled a fella called Colin MacDonald. So my first match, I got a bit of a pasting actually, and I realised, well, you can't stick to the wrestling all the time, but you know, let's improve and let's get stuck in and do the job. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any one opponent who was really a bugbear for you?
Well, there were a few actually. Well, you know, because I'd come on to Billy Robinson's gymnasium.
Yeah.
Now, Billy was known throughout the world. He was
Phenomenal.
A top shooter, shooting submission wrestling. You know.
Yeah.
And Billy lived 3 doors away from me. That's how I met him. His mother had it was a corner shop, a ladies' hairdressing salon. My mother used to go and have her hair done there. Of course, mothers get talking, don't they? And I got introduced to Billy. Now, Billy was 3 years older than me and a lot bigger than me.
He was.
Yeah, he was. But he opened up this it was a wooden shack that had been a dance academy in Lower Failsworth. It was right next to the canal it was. But he's had a wonderful spring floor, it was beautiful for skipping. And he put a mat down, you know, and took me down there and shoved my you-know-what up my you-know-what, and, you know, and I was hooked from then onwards, yeah. I wanted to learn.
So, our theme today was leaving a legacy. What legacy would you like to leave? If there's a message you can share with the new generation.
If there's a message I could... Never give up trying. You know, train hard. If you're going to do something, do it 110%. Don't do it 90%. If you're going to do it, give it everything you've got.
Absolutely.
And see where it gets you, you know. You've got to do, in any walk of life, haven't you? No matter what you're doing, whether you're working in an office or what, you've got to give it, you know. Yeah. And I always enjoyed pushing myself to be on the limit if I could. You know, I'd go out, because I used to live very close to the promenade, and I used to go out running along the seafront there, and the last 100 yards, I'd be absolutely shattered, but I would push myself and I would sprint. Really, really work hard. I had to be the fittest.
The work's done outside of the ring, right?
Yes.
So really, you wrestled as you lived life,
Yes.
and vice versa.
Yes, absolutely.
It was absolutely
Yes.
nice, but it always was a delight to see you in the ring, John. It really was.
Yeah.
You know, it was fantastic. And you know, your hopes for today's wrestlers?
Hopes for today's wrestlers. Well, you can't half-heartedly do anything. You've got to give it 110% all the time, and that will sorts the men out from the boys, you know.
And I think with trainers like Marty,
Yeah. Yes.
and that they will succeed. Do you do any training nowadays?
Not these. I have a false knee now, which does unfortunately restrict me. Through being in the business that long, you know. But like I say, you've got to give it 110% all the time. And I'm going to say this: I thank Billy Robinson Well, yeah, I've worked wrestled all over the world actually. I went to Japan 4 or 5 times, and
Yeah.
did well over there. Yeah.
That's,
Wrestled in Germany many times, France, Holland, Belgium, you name it, I've been.
that says a lot in itself.
Yeah.
And I said we've had royalty here today, in yourself and Colin
Yes.
and Marty.
Yeah.
And we've got Len as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've got royalty from England and Scotland.
Absolutely.
And it's such a pleasure to speak to you, John.
Some of the best wrestlers in the world came from England, this country.
Oh, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And
You drop the hand,
This one? No. That one. That one.
and this one, you don't touch your other hand at all. All you do now is turn under. That's it. Try it. Keep your arm bent on top. No. Flat, like that.
Have your elbow down.
Just out and in.
Bring your elbow down.
Nearly. You can't just do it straight away. You know what I mean? But it's good. Right. One more, quick. Relax. All right. Like that. Keep up straight, Abigail. Be on your toes. And not one hand away from the other. Change direction. A bit flat footed there. Be on your toes. Change direction. Turn inside out. Inside out. Right? One more time. You've got to try and get your backbone, your spine and your shoulders all down at the same time and break your fall. Bring them feet up to the rope. Go. Nothing wrong with that. Right. Just go and move them that way. Yeah. I don't want you to go as high this time. Do exactly the same, but the thing you must do is break your fall. In your own time. Now. Perfect.